Okay, welcome back everyone. We're going to continue on with the last stage of exporting out and looking at the final building process of our app within our weekly content today. So the first thing you can see here is I've got my final design I've created for my home screen, for example, of an app. This is an example I've created just to show you what your designs could potentially look like. Obviously yours will vary depending on the kind of app you're creating. And what I've done here, just to show you what I've created, is created the image assets and so on. But what I plan on doing is actually exporting out my button images separately, okay? Because these will actually be turned into the physical buttons themselves within Unity. So just to quickly show you that, the idea would be able to turn off the buttons like so, and I'll export out this background as one big flat JPEG image, okay? And what you can actually do is if you're exporting out buttons like the play button here or the library button, you can actually right click on it and choose a quick export as PNG, and that will choose where to save your button, and it's a really quick way to just save out a bunch of layers in one flat image. So if you have a look in my exports folder, you can see that I've now got my exported background image here, and obviously the two different buttons as well. I've brought these into Unity. Okay, you can see them loaded up here in my images folder, and as you can also see, I haven't yet put them into my scene within the Unity project. Okay, so that would be my next stage. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select my image, and where it says None Sprite, all I have to do is click and drag my home screen background image into that tab there, and it will swap it over. If there's a color overlay, it's probably because our color is set to a specific color other than white. I'm just going to change mine back to white, and we'll see that revert back to how we want it to look. And obviously we don't want the text there, so I'm just going to find my text and delete it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. The last thing that I need to do, however, is to change over my buttons. So again, it's the same process. Find my source image of UI sprite, click and swap that over. Okay, play is changed there, and the same for my library button. Okay, now I'll need to adjust the sizing of these as well, but the gist of it is that obviously approaching and changing these buttons to match the designs that I've created, okay, is really important. And going across into my play button here, selecting that. Okay, so 100 is pretty close. Just adjusting them until they fit. The last thing you'll need to do is, because I've got text in my image, I don't want that on the actual button itself. So underneath each image, I'm just going to untick my text and reposition them to match your design. Okay, so now if I play my app, you'll see that the image itself will load up. Okay, there it is. I do, I think, have an image still loading on top of that, which is why it looks a little bit different in color, but that stuff can be tweaked and fixed. The idea is your image loads up. You can click on your buttons, like play, and it will go to your AR camera scene, just like we created. Okay, so here is mine, here I am. Okay, and the idea would be you have your finished image target, which you'd hold up. Okay, and you get your animations to play just like these examples here. Okay, so that's basically the last few things I want you to look at in just getting your app to work. Make sure that you have your images set in and your buttons set up correctly. Make sure that you're testing your image targets and your animations work properly. And from there, you can then go through the last minute details and exporting processes. So when we go to File, we then choose Build Settings. Okay, and we want to go down and choose our player settings. This will bring up a menu on the right here. You can put in your own company name, your fictional company studio name there if you want to. So for my example here, I've called mine Dynamite Studios. Okay, product name iPad AR app. All right, and one last little detail you might be interested in. Okay, under resolution and presentation, you can choose the orientation of your app. So if you want your app to just be in portrait or landscape, you can tick these boxes. Under splash image, okay, this is where you could set up a logo to preview in your app if you wanted to. Okay, so When apps first launch, you usually see a little splash loading screen. If you want to put in your logo and have that appear on the side of your app, you can do that as well. And you can just drag it in. I've got mine here. Just a matter of dragging it in, setting it up, and playing with these logo duration settings and so on. And you click this preview button here, you'll see an example of how it will first look in the app as it loads it up, ready to play. Okay, so you can choose that. You can also tick show the Unity logo or sequential, for example. And then if I preview that, it will look like this. Okay, and then continue on to the actual app itself. So feel free to experiment with these splash screens if you'd like. Okay, I might change my background to black, for example, on my Unity one, but obviously that's something that you can experiment with. Okay, so with that done, we can then move into the exporting settings for our very final app build. Okay, so under splash image, you'll see that there is an other settings option. Okay, so under here, the bundle identifier, you can again put in your company and the product name if you want to, but just leave this empty, or as it is, I should say. Very specific one here. Under camera usage description, you need this very specific text. Okay, camera access required for target detection and tracking. You will need to type that in. It will not build without it. It will give you some errors. And lastly, you need to make sure that your target minimum iOS version is set to 9.0. Okay, they're the absolute musts. If you want, set your target device to iPad only as well, and then that should be everything you need to change in these settings. Okay, with that done, again with your scenes all selected, just like we've done in the past, you can then choose build. Okay, it's going to ask where to build the app. I'm just going to suggest on the desktop, create a folder called app build, AR app build. Okay, call it AR iPad app and click save. And you'll then see it run through the exporting and building process. Shouldn't take too long. If there are any errors, you can obviously check them out, refine them, go back and change anything else necessary. Okay, so it might take a while to export. Just waiting for it to finish. Okay, there we are, build successful, all done. So what I can now do is have a look at where that's saved my build. So our app build, here we go, our iPad app. In this folder is a range of information and pieces. You don't need to touch any of this, that's your build complete. The idea is if you were to put this onto an iPad, you would basically open up this folder and start installing some of the files. Okay, and I might show you how to do that in another video. Okay, so this is one part of what you need to actually provide as per your submission for the final app. Okay, so what I'm going to do is refer back to my assessment brief task here. Okay, so for part one, you still need to submit the PDF file itself. For part two, there are two sections. The app build, okay, so the exported build app, which is this folder here. Okay, that's your build. And then also a screen capture, recording of you using your app through Unity. Okay, so what we can do now is just close this scene here, start a screen recording, for example with QuickTime, record yourself using video. Okay, so you might decide just like this one, okay, just like this tutorial, start QuickTime, sure if I can do it. So file, you might say new screen recording. I can't do it at the moment, but new screen recording. Once that's recording, make sure your audio is on and test your app. So show me it working in Unity, just like so, within the Unity view. Okay, you can resize your app in screen and all this kind of stuff if you want. Go to your different screens, show me each screen. Okay, for example, play, which will go to my camera scene. Show me yourself showing all three animated image targets and animations. Okay, so one, then the second one, and the third one. Okay, so I want to see a screen recording of all three. Once you've done that, then obviously you can provide that video file onto Canvas as well. Okay. Okay, so just make sure that you submit both these two items here. Note the naming convention for the zip file. Okay, so you'll be submitting it as a single zip folder. Okay, and with that done, you can then submit to Canvas. Okay.